I'm welcoming you to this important lecture that is very critical to the Nigerian economy in particular and to many other stakeholders who will be interested in this discussion. As I said, lectures that we have, and we have a very good time together. So very soon we go into the session. Our first lecturer is prepared. He's well prepared to take the discussion. At the time of his citation, you know more about him. But he was one time a student of industrial production engineering. So, but what I want to emphasize is the fact that this discussion is very important as all relate together, showcasing our alumni who is doing greatly affecting the nation. Alumni are spread all over the world, doing greatly in their various field of endeavors. So tonight we are going to be very soon go to the program. We have our chairman who will be declaring his opening address, and abroad who will be listening to this program on board to address. Well, he's also an alumnus of the department, one of the earliest set of MSc graduates was once a lecturer as well, and present day is based in the United Kingdom. He's an economist and in this department for us, but up to now, you still have interaction with his sabbatical in these are about 3 months to spend with us. Going, so it's very useful to the department. Lanre Okuribido, who is our chief, give his opening remarks. Dr. Okuribido, please come on.
Hello, good evening, everybody.
Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Hello, sir.
Hello,
okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. It's much better.
Right. Good evening, everyone. You're welcome to this series of the lectures. The topic today is quite important because if you have ever had to travel to the east of Nigeria, as you approach the airport, you see all these glimmers of lights sprinkling the airway. That's when gas is being flared from the gas fields. And this topic that is being discussed by the lecturer today is trying to bring out an awareness of the need to harness our gas resources to be more productive for us instead of burning away a lot of revenue. He's one who has spent the past few years in the oil and gas area, investigating such issues based in America. And he was one of our, like the moderator said, he was one of our students in my early academic career with UI. So the oil industry is very important to Nigeria, but so far we are focused on just extracting crude oil and not really utilizing the gas that is produced as well. Although there have been some developments in that direction, they're still very minimal. Our lecturer will give us more insights on that, and he will tell us what needs to be done or what can be done and directions in which developments of the infrastructure required to harness that resource can be moved. So I would enjoin you to listen carefully, take notes, and be ready to ask questions at the end of the lecture. Thank you very much. I welcome. That will be my opening remarks done. Thank you. Hello.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
We apologize for that. I think Dr. Kolawole's line is having issues. So the next item on the line is we want to take the goodwill message from our special guest of honor, who is from the university, the former Vice Chancellor, Federal University of Petroleum Resources, Ephraim, here in Nigeria. Professor Aki Ibadode, FAS, FSNE. So right now, we would like him to come on board to give us his goodwill message. Professor Aki Ibadode, please. Professor Ibadode, we are waiting for you for your goodwill message.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, sir. We can hear you now.
Okay, thank you very much. I had to change my system. I wasn't hearing in my tablet that I was using. So I'm using my cell phone now. Are you seeing me?
No, sir.
Yeah, okay. I think I'm on now. Hello? Hello?
All right, we can see you now. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
You can go ahead.
I want to first of all acknowledge the department for this wonderful innovation. I got to know about it from Professor Victor Oladokun. I want to thank you, the HOD, staff and students. Professor Luleye, we are colleagues, and Professor Charles Owaba. I don't know if they are there. They don't seem to be there, but I really want to appreciate them for the years that we have spent together in this job. So, as I said before, this is a great idea of the conference where you are bringing the alumni together of the department on a monthly basis with this conference. It is a great one. And I wish other departments can do this and other universities. When I got the invitation, I invited the Vice Chancellor of Federal University of Petroleum Resources, Professor Rim Ruke, who he said he was going to join in. I hope he will join in. He liked the idea so much. So I want to wish that other universities can key into this. It's very good. The benefits are so many. It helps to keep you informed of the progress of your students, of your former students. And it's a ready platform for giving back by former students, even especially as guest speakers. I know that the guest speakers that you have been using, they are former students who have made their marks in their profession. So it's a great idea, and I pray that others will key in and that you will keep it going. The monthly, I don't know whether the monthly is sustainable, but whatever it is, it's good to have it, and I want you to make it better and better. And then coming to the lecture, I find this very intriguing, energy transition. That is the in thing now, in terms of transiting from the use of fossil fuels to renewables. And I find the topic very intriguing. The topic is energy transition and the role of gas infrastructure development in Nigeria. Just on the face value, I was wondering whether there's a conflict, because when you are talking of energy transition, we are talking of transiting from the use of fossil fuels to renewables. And then usually gas infrastructure, one would normally associate it with natural gas collection and distribution, and then possibly other gases from fossil fuels. So I was wondering, maybe the lecturer will throw more light on this, because it's an interesting aspect to have to map the energy transition to gas infrastructure. So I'll be listening very keenly to know exactly what this is all about. So I want to thank the organizers. It's a great idea, and the topic is also a very great one. At the end of the day, I believe we will have something that we have gained from it, and it will help us to be able to put in our own areas of work into this area of energy transition. I want to commend, even before the guest lecturer gives his lecture, for the work he's going to do. Thank you very much for this opportunity you've given to me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We want to thank you for honoring our invitation and for adding value to this very program. Your personality here is very highly appreciated. I know you are our external examiner for many years, BSc, MSc, up to PhD level. I want to thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
God bless you.
Yes, sir. Next in the series, our guest of honor, Guru Message, who was a former dean of the Faculty of Technology here at the University of Ibadan. When I came to the university in 1987 session, he was the dean, and our own Professor Charles Owaba was his sub-dean that time. So we have one of our foremost professor of petroleum engineering in Nigeria and Africa, and perhaps worldwide, in our midst to give his own good message as well. So I want to call on our emeritus Professor G.K. Falade, a former dean of the Faculty of Technology, 1986 to 88 session, 2 sessions. That's when he was a dean, and he has a lot of landmark in the Faculty of Technology here in University of Ibadan and University of Ibadan, and perhaps petroleum engineering departments as a whole in virtually every part of Nigeria. So I want to welcome Emeritus Professor Falade to give his own good message. You are welcome, sir. Professor Falade, sir.
Yes, I'm here, but I'm not muted. I'm unmuted. Okay, that's good.
Okay.
You hear me now, can you?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear, sir.
Wonderful. Now, first of all, I think the most important thing to do first is to thank the Department of Industrial and it used to be Industrial and Engineering Management. That was the original name we gave to that department. But since then, the department has grown, matured to a much wider scope. I think the new name now is, hello? Hello?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Okay,
Go ahead, sir. We are hearing you.
okay,
Go ahead, sir.
okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
At that time, two elderly professors, Professor, what is his name now?
Oshifo.
Osifo, yeah, Professor Osifo. And one, is it the other man is Rukima or something like that, who are managing the program. The architect of the transition from the old to the new are largely professors, one of the very important professors in the university now, I'm trying to remember his name, please forget my forgetfulness. I remember my subdean then, who was one of your professors. But the important thing here is to note that the topic that has been selected is very critical. Critical in the sense that I expect it to map out what you can do to move this country, Nigeria, from the fossil fuel to an alternative source of energy. Now, natural gas, as it were, is basically a fossil fuel. But we now use natural gas to generate hydrogen as a form of energy. So the topic is very appropriate in the sense of transition from fossil to other source of energy. But then having said that, let me hint that one of the primary reasons why this topic is very topical and the mode of generating or engaging the topic is the fact that your department is trying to create the kind of synergy we need from the university and the industry. Basically, you want to bring the gown to town. Now, we've said this several years back, but the path has not always been straight because the dichotomy between universities and the industry is extremely very, very difficult. I'm sure some of your senior members of staff who will be going around or who have been going around to seek their support for their department will have seen that. But then anything that is good has to go through some difficulties. In more advanced countries, the university is basically the source of wealth for the industry. Now, that's not quite so here in this country. When I was very active in petroleum engineering, I was able to do that to a reasonable extent, not to the extent I would like to see it done. We must try to implement the so-called triple helix system, whereby the university is generating ideas for another group to nurture that idea and for the industry to implement idea. The government is basically to sponsor those ideas financially. The government cannot run industry, nor can it run it, but it can give this background in terms of financing. That also is one of the things we need to work on in this country. I'm very appreciative of the fact that you are bringing somebody from industry to address some of these issues. I'm anxious to hear and see what he's going to talk about. And I'm sure he also knows exactly what I'm talking about now. Let me thank him for accepting to come. To come to Ibadan nowadays from outside Ibadan is a very difficult assignment. But he has taken the part himself to come over here, despite all the obstacles on his road, to be part of us today. I'll appreciate him and I thank him very much. And finally, let me thank my very able department, Industrial and Production Engineering, for the new trend they are trying to promote in the Faculty of Technology at Ibadan. We need such attempts or such innovative ideas in all the departments, because that's the only way you can grow. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for listening to me, and I hope we will all enjoy this program together tonight. Thank you all. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. The words of elders are words of wisdom. We want to thank you, sir, for coming on board and for sharing your thoughts with us. Though very briefly, we appreciate you, sir. I believe as the lecture goes on, you'll still be able to make one or two comments later.
Sure.
We want to thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I want to move speedily. Now the lecturer will soon come up. As we said, the lecturer was a graduate of our department in 1997. And immediately now, his citation will be read by one of his very classmates that they were together in the department. And immediately after the citation is read, he will start his lecture. So I want to call on Engineer Inusa Akinwale, who was one of his classmates undergraduate days, to read the citation of Dr. Abajide Agunbiade. Please, Engineer Inusa, come up. Engineer Inusa, please.
Yeah, good evening.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Chairman Dr. Kuribido. Good evening to our special guest of honor, Professor Aki Bablude, FAS, FNSC. Good evening to our guest of honor, Emirate Professor J.K. Falade. And let me say good evening to ladies and gentlemen in the house. I'm permitted to stand on existing protocol because of limited time. It is an honor to be presenting the citation of a scholar, a friend, and a classmate, with Dr. Babajide Agunbiade. Can I confirm if you are hearing me?
Yes.
Yes, we are hearing you. We can hear you.
Okay, fine. Babajide Agunbiade, PhD, FNIC, current FILC, FSQT, MBA, is a global oil and gas icon, engineer, active businessman, investor, and philanthropist, who is one of only 13 subject matter experts globally in subsea production systems. He is currently CEO of Alpha Energy Resources, as well as a director at National Oil Well, VACO, based in Houston, Texas, an American conglomerate that is the largest worldwide provider of equipment and components used in oil and gas drilling and production operations. In that role, he has been involved in a significant level in virtually all the shallow and deep water projects in sub-Saharan Africa and the Gulf of Mexico. He has completed over $2 billion offshore production projects over the last decade alone. Dr. Babajide Agunbiade started his career in Nigeria at Industrial Measurement and Control Limited, Lagos, after a brief stint consulting for other oil and gas companies in Nigeria. He joined General Electric, Houston, Texas, where he rose to become principal engineer of the General Electric Gasification Business Group. As a principal engineer, he led the design of the 682 megawatt integrated gasification in combined cycle IGCC plant at Duke Energy's Edwardsport station in North Country, Indiana. The 618 megawatt IGCC facility is the largest IGCC plant, the cleanest and most efficient coal power plant in the world. It emits less sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, and particles than the plant it replaces, while providing more than 10 times the amount of megawatt hours. The Edwardsport IGCC project includes an activated carbon bed for the absorption of mercury, 2 heat recovery steam generators, each of which is equipped with selective catalytic reduction for nitrogen oxide control, a multiple cell cooling tower. The project created more than 2,500 construction jobs and began commercial operations in June 2013. The plant used 1.7 to 1.9 million tons of Indiana and Midwestern coal per year, boosting local and state economies. The coal used each year supports an estimated 170 mining jobs, and the plant employs an estimated 110 to 120 people. Dr. Alumni graduated with a combined honors degree in industrial and production engineering from the prestigious University of Ibadan in 1996-97. An accomplished engineer, he attended the General Electric Edison Advanced Engineering Development Program, EEDP, in Crotonville, New York, and gained a master's degree in systems engineering. He is a GE Green and Black Belt certified. He holds a master's degree in organizational management and an MBA from the prestigious American Intercontinental University, AIU, in Houston, Texas, as well as a PhD in leadership and business from Higher Place Christian University, Atlanta, Georgia, USA. He is also a PhD scholar in environmental policy at Texas Southern University. He has attended several training courses in Nigeria and overseas in subsea production systems, business development, oil and gas, contract negotiation, etc., etc. A current registered engineer is a member of the following professional bodies: Fellow, Nigeria Society of Engineers; Fellow, Institute of Industrial and System Engineers; Fellow, Society of Underwater Technology; Member, National Society of Professional Engineers; Member, Council of Registered Engineers of Nigeria. An ardent scholar, he has written and presented several technical papers and local and international fora. Some of these papers are product mix program, a case of paper manufacturing industry, research, system dynamics applied to engineering management, a survey assessment and direction for future research, leadership in multi-leadership business organization, where are we fostering PhD dissertation at HPCU, that is Higher Place Christian University. Fully integrated surface remover and low sultry salinity plant for IOR and EOR OTC 2020. Restricted edge riser configuration for ultra shallow water project Abadilagre plus distancing OTC 2014. Subsea membrane water treatment program. Water treatment progress toward application OCC 2016. Subsea water treatment and injection for IOR and EOR OTC Asia 2014. Direct electrical heating of flexible pipe Abadilagre CO et al. OTC 2016. Subsea water treatment pilot testing at the Ecofisk field in the North Sea. Abagide Agunlade Eric Dada OTC 2019. Impact of gas flaring on air quality, a review, PhD research work, Texas Southern University, the parameter of urban planning and environmental policy. Dr. Babajide Agunlade is an excellent leader and pioneer in the oil and gas industry, a strong advocate for development in country capacity and transforming value creation across various sectors in the oil and gas industry. As a businessman, he is the founder Midas Global Services LCC, a diversified conglomerate involved in real estate, a trading and energy infrastructure based in Houston, Texas. Co-owner, MDX Shipping Company, Houston. Co-founder and non-executive director, Alpha Petroleum. Managing partner and non-executive director at Arias Limited. Managing partner and non-executive director, Pusher Concern Group. Founder, MDS Luxury Design. Founder, Liberty Limited. Apart from his impressive philanthropic activity in Nigeria and the USA, where his donation includes 3 water systems, a library in the US and Nigeria, amongst many other philanthropic enterprises. Dr. Agunlade has also been a veritable source of hope and succor to the needy in the alma mater. The University of Ibadan, he donated £6,000 to the institution UR Alumni Trust Fund is among the first diaspora alumni to make such a large donation at the 70th anniversary of the Premier University, and it has raised over 100 million naira to support secondary education across Nigeria, among other support. A cultural icon, Dr. Babajide Agunbade is the Atobashi of Yoruba land, one of the highest chieftaincy titles in Yoruba land, as well as being one of only 17 Yoruba white titles. The title was conferred on him by none other than His Imperial Majesty, Oba Dr. Lamidi Olawale Adeyemi III, Ikú Baba Yeye Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́, JP CFR LLD at his palace in Ọ̀yọ́ in 2021. Dr. Babajide Agunbade, FNSC, is a recipient of the certificate of U.S. Congress National Recognition conferred on him on behalf of the United States Congress in recognition of his scholarly, business, and philanthropic contribution globally by none other than Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. He later also proclaimed November 12, 2021 as His Majesty Dr. Babajide Agunbade, FNSC Day in the 18th Congressional District of Texas, Houston. In her presentation, U.S. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee and the city of Houston described Atobashi Dr. Agunbade and his wife, Yeye Atobashi Funke Agunbade, as strong pillars in Houston and Nigeria who have dedicated efforts to giving back to marginalized communities and have played integral role in several social movements internationally. She thanks them for their worthwhile efforts to enrich the city of Houston through mentorship, community development, educational scholarship, and international recognition. Dr. Babajide Agunbade, FNSC, to Mrs. Olufunke Agunbade, who is the Yeye Atobashi of Yoruba land, and the man is blessed with children. Thank you very much for listening. I hope I have communicated.
Yes, you have. Ralph, the citation is almost inexhaustible, but we thank you for reading it. It's full, so full, it's almost taking the time of the lecture. Anyway, now let's listen to Dr. Agunbade. Kindly present your lecture. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, and good evening to everyone. Thanks to my very good friend, Mr. Aki Yunusa, for the citation. It's a little bit dated. So some of the, yeah, but thank you nonetheless. So I think that citation was passed on about 2 years ago or something. So it's still about a year and a half. So, but thank you very much. I'm really grateful. And let me start by acknowledging and thanking Professor Aki Ibadode, former Vice Chancellor of the Nigerian Petroleum University, for being here. It's a fantastic honor. I also want to thank Emeritus Professor Falade. I can't even believe that a day will come that I will be in the same platform with Professor Falade, having obviously graduated from the University of Ibadan in the mid-90s. So we had a lot of strife those days. So to be sharing the same platform with him is just an unbelievable honor. I want to thank my former lecturer as well, Dr. Larry Kuribido, for being here, Dr. Kolawole, and everybody that is here that I may, I don't know if Professor Luleye is here, but I want to thank them. And, of course, I want to thank the department for providing us the platform to be here on a day like today, because we, as youngsters, I remember joining the University of Ibadan age 17 or so, and going through that process, and to be able to stand there many years later is a testament to the sacrifices that people like Dr. Falade I mean, Professor Emeritus Falade, Dr. Kuribido, and a host of others, Dr. Charles Owado, of course, who was always there for us, Professor Lule, and so many of them. So we thank them. So now going to I've seen, obviously I've taken note of what Professor Ibalade said about the topic, so, it is really, first of all, let me digress a little bit and talk about my background, so so for the past 20 years, I have, well, let me say the past 23 years, just to be a little bit more precise. And certainly in the last 15 years, I have worked in offshore production, and that is where my primary expertise is. So I primarily produce oil from shallow and deep water. And my company does a lot of pipe design, flow assurance studies, on-bottom stability analysis, and equipment supply, topside modification. So my expertise, and like my citation also revealed, I'm a subject matter expert in subsea production systems. So if I were to talk about anything in my comfort zone, it will obviously be in completion and production, offshore production, which is where, which is my bread and butter. But it's not an interesting topic nowadays because, Nigeria has massive infrastructural gap. There's a lot of unemployment, and we're sitting on large quantity of gas. So to not address that issue, given the opportunity to talk about something like this, I just cannot waive it. So whatever the opportunity presented itself to bring out a topic, I was scrambling and I wanted to make an impact and talk about something that's actually significant at the current time. Outside of that, the thing that I did before then was obviously to gasify carbon-based feedstock, mostly coal, and turn that into hydrogen stream and carbon monoxide and CO to power a gas or steam turbine. So that's what I did for about 10 years at General Electric and GE gasification. I moved around a little bit in nuclear and oil and gas, but primarily that's what I did. I became a principal engineer doing that, and that's where my interest in gas started. So we turn coal, put it into a preheated 900 cubic feet combustion chamber and gasify it, partial oxidization, and then use that to power a gas and steam turbine. And so it's an interesting technology which will work in Nigeria, considering that we're sitting on enough coal to power 200 million people for 40 years in Enugu alone. But we're not doing anything. Sometimes I wish I could put this training and knowledge that I had at GE into use into gasifying some of the coal that we have. So thank you. So that's a little bit of my background, So I say that to say this is talking about gas is a little bit of a stretch for me, but I haven't been in the industry, of course. I've done a lot about gas. So why do I want to talk about gas? Obviously, it's important to us that natural gas will play a critical role in achieving energy security for Nigeria and industrialization. Government has three priorities, typically, while setting up energy policies. The first one, of course, is security of supply. Second is economic competitiveness. Okay, yeah, thanks. So I haven't really started my presentation, but this is good for it to stay here because I'm trying to set a little bit of a background to it. And then, of course, and then reduction in greenhouse gas emission. So what this presentation is not about transitioning into greener energy. If you note, since last year, EU has advocated categorizing natural gas as a green and clean energy. And when you come to Nigeria, that is sitting on 200 TAF scoff of gas, 200 trillion cubic feet of gas, with the potential to have 600 trillion cubic feet of gas. That's just mind-boggling. Even without trying, Nigeria is 9th in the world. I mean, and when you realize how much gas is used in Europe and all over the world, and for Nigeria to be 9th in the world, and so we're sitting on so much gas. It is estimated that Nigeria's gas is worth about $103 trillion. So this country of ours that is sitting on extreme poverty, that lacks basic industrialization and energy and infrastructure, has so much gas potential. So that's where we are. So let's talk a little bit about Nigeria's gas reservoir and data, and what we currently do with the gas that we have in Nigeria. So like I said before, Nigeria's total gas reserve is 2.08 trillion cubic feet of gas. Out of that, every day we produce about 8 billion cubic feet or standard cubic feet of gas. Of all of this, 10%, so when you really look at it, if we're breaking it down, only 10% of the gas that we generate in Nigeria is, sorry, please. I don't know who is, I'm going to give a little bit of, since I wrote a research paper, so I'll talk a little bit about just giving a little bit of background, and then I will go into this research paper and maybe actually, to save time, read it so that everybody can get the point. But in the meantime, I want to really go through the basic thing to set an understanding for people, which is why we're even talking about gas. Nigeria has gas. We have a lot of gas. There's a lot of poverty in the country. And we need gas to power our world, to industrialize, and to generate employment for the teeming thousands of youths that don't have anything that they're doing today. So if we turn our gas into fertilizer, into petrochemical, into power, into pharmaceutical, that's a lot of jobs that can be created for the teeming masses that are not doing anything. Today, Nigeria produces and that's the stretch, 4,000 to 6,000 megawatts of electricity, and are we a joke? That is a country that is sitting on proven 200 trillion cubic feet of gas, and we're only producing 4,000 to 6,000 megawatts of electricity. So as I was saying about, so off the top, 10% of the gas, which is around 700 to 900 cubic feet of gas, is flared. Then, of course, every day we produce about 8 billion cubic feet of gas. Of that 8 billion cubic feet of gas, about half of that is exported into the international market, mostly through the LNGs, compressed and exported. And then we have the remaining 40% that is either flared or utilized by producers for internal consumption to do a host of things, including gas injection for oil field optimization. So just to give a little bit of a understanding of how we think as Nigerians. So I worked on an oil field in Ghana about 10 years ago, called OCTP, which is the ENI Ghana, and for that field, the Ghanaians, they drilled below the conventional oil window of oil to get into gas, because unlike Nigeria, that we're just looking to quickly get oil and sell and not worry about and abandon wells with a lot of gas, they were looking for gas to power the economy. And that was very strange to me, because I'm like, wow, these guys passed 40,000 barrels of oil per day. Which eventually they're coming back to now, to go and really be drilling for gas, because they're concerned about power generation, they're concerned about industrialization, they're concerned about just all the great things that we can use natural gas for. So that's interesting, and that is what we're not doing in Nigeria. Then, of course, the remainder that is not flared, we use it for, we have gas industrial, our local industrialization. We have the what is it called now in Abeokuta and Ogun State? I think it's called Agbara Industrial Estate, Ikeja, some part of Aba. So we use, for our own industrial internal commercialization, we also use gas. So for the domestic use, we have the gas to gas, because believe it or not, Nigeria has some gas-based feedstock utilization that we do. We have gas to commercial, which is the various industrial estates that is actually, get little to no gas. When you really think about, they're getting less gas than we're flaring, less than 400 million cubic feet of gas. And then, of course, we have gas to power, which is completely insignificant. Now, having worked in the oil industry, some of the challenges that I've always been confronted with is that, wow, everywhere that I go, including some of the projects that are going on now with the AKK and a lot of the projects, you begin to see the importance of industrial engineers in the role that we can play in modeling and optimizing a lot of processes that you see here. But then, of course, just like Professor Falade said, there's no, I know there's no deliberate effort in what we're doing now to bring a synergy between the academia and the industry, but there's a lot of role that IE can play, because when you just look at some of the projects that has happened in the gas industry, even in the oil industry, where we lack accurate and good modeling, process improvement, optimization, there's so much waste, so much waste, it's unbelievable. So coming to this platform, and because of the wastages, this project become unattractive, that they look expensive, and so people, it's really sometimes like a quagmire for me, coming from industrial engineering background and being in an oil and gas sector where the big guns, so to say, the clients, So let me give you an example of the AKK project, Abuja, Kaduna, Kano project. The route for the company that ultimately won it, which is what's the maker's company's name? Anyway, it will come to my mind. So of course, a maker was pushing for more pipes because he's a businessman. And so the route, it made it extremely complicated so that I can get more pipes. And now we're talking about a $3 billion project. Obviously, an industrial engineer is trained to optimize the route, to optimize the processes, So easily, this project could have been, say, save Nigeria $1 billion. But then, of course, there's no role for us to say in those kind of things. So the big elephant in the room is the guy that wants to make $1 more billion by taking the gas at the most optimal route from Aba to Abuja, So that's where we are. To go back into this whole thing, why is this important? Nigeria has a lot of gas. This gas can change our lives and our world. We're not utilizing it whatsoever, So when I say energy transition, obviously now we have some sort of energy, apart from the fact that, natural gas is now being categorized as a form of clean gas. We're using some sort of energy, but the gap has always been in infrastructural development. In order to bridge this gap, Nigeria needs to partner, especially with the African Development Bank, to make the necessary investment in connecting gas pipes across the country and to feed it into industry that really needs it, into turning into power generation, into build industries, fertilizer, petrochemical, power, pharmaceutical, and this will create employment and lift our people out of poverty. And so any stride that we're making towards utilization of gas is a transition from the horrible place that we're in now, where we mostly prospect for fossil fuel. Well, I mean, you can say that's some sort of gas, but you know, so for crude, basically, you know, into gas to power our life. So in the effort to do that, there are some projects that are ongoing in Nigeria, and I'm going to list some of those projects, and then I will go into the research paper that I've presented. I'll kind of just run through it. You know, you have the Nigerian Gas Flare Commercialization Project. It's a government-led program aimed at reducing gas flaring and promoting the use of natural gas. So to talk a little bit about this gas flare, because I was drafted to be a part of this thing by NUPRC to help in formulating these policies. So in Nigeria, as of the time that we're drafting this policy in 2019, just before COVID, there were 214 flare points in Nigeria. So where they're just flaring gas. Like I said, realistically speaking, if I'm not an industry person, the amount of gas that we flare is really insignificant to what we produce, but it's still, when you consider that you need only 1 million cubic feet of gas to generate 4 kilowatts of power, and then we're flaring 700 million cubic feet daily, then you see that, of course, it becomes to look significant. Now, talking about the Nigerian Gas Flare Commercialization Program. So, of course, you know, after all the cries and noise and everything about the gas flaring that we have in Nigeria, the NUPRC that replaced DPR, they now finally set up and say, okay, look, let's look at these 214 flare points and let's try to do something. And they ask people, you don't even have to pay, just put in a technical bid. And if you win, you know, so you can have this gas and you can do whatever you want to it. You can compress it, you can use it for power generation, you can process it into various output variables, and you can do what you want. So invariably, as of the last count, when I was briefed by NUPRC people, we have about 49 points that people were interested in, you know, because and those 49 points, the process is still ongoing. I've talked about the Ajakuta, Kaduna, Kano gas line pipeline project. The AKK gas pipeline is a 2.8 billion gas project that will transport natural gas from southern Nigeria to the northern region of the country. The pipeline will provide a reliable source of energy for industry, power plants, and households in the northern region, create jobs and promote economic growth. This is a noble thing, you know. It's just that, like I said, my training as an industrial engineer will never let me look at this project the same way, because there is a lot of optimization that could have been done here. We have the Obiafu, Obricom, Oben, OB3 gas pipeline. The OB3 gas pipeline is a 127-kilometer pipeline that will transport natural gas from the eastern Niger Delta to the Oben gas plant in Edo State. The pipeline is expected to increase gas supply to power plants, promote industrial growth, and reduce greenhouse gas emission. So, like I said, all of this is tying into the whole priorities of building gas infrastructure, which is A, to provide security of supply, to provide economic competitiveness globally, and to reduce greenhouse gas emission. Natural gas can do all this. We have the big Train 7 LNG project that is ongoing now. It's, as of the last count, is $8 billion USD Train 7 liquefied natural gas plant that Nigeria is built. We've had several that's already completely built and completed, and we have a few in the works, including the Train 7 that I've just talked about. There's a lot of various it's almost becoming unsustainable now, because, like I said again, there's a lot of this plan, in my opinion, could cost less than the $8 to $9 billion. But don't quote me on that Nigeria is using to build on it. So every time I look in these areas, am I a beneficiary of some of these largesse? Absolutely, because there's just so much money that is being wasted and being thrown around. But our department being noted for modeling, for optimization, for waste reduction and everything, we can always be engaged. In fact, every day when I wake up, I believe that not even petroleum engineering, but industrial engineering should be what is most central to oil and gas development in Nigeria. That's just my personal opinion. You can say I'm biased because I'm from IE, So we have that. So those are the basic preamble. Now, we obviously have not had the requisite infrastructure that we need as a country to move the gas development to where it is. So what are the challenges that we are facing, that is preventing Nigeria from actually maximizing the huge gas base, 600 trillion. By the time we really optimize and produce and really dig into all of the gas that we have, we're talking about jumping from number 9 in the world to around number 5 in the world. Nigeria's gas potential is just enormous. So the number one thing, of course, is the lack of political will. Because how do a country that generates 6,000 to 5,000 megawatts of electricity burn 700 million cubic feet of gas? So the amount of gas that we're burning, if there's a serious political will, can give us, without trying, 20,000 megawatts of electricity. So instead of us as a country sitting in darkness and burning our gas, the only thing that you can say about that is there's no political will on our part as government. So, and then of course there's so much regulation in terms of the regulatory hurdle to attract the necessary investment. I attended the African Development Bank conference that actually really targeted. It was sponsored by an SPV that was interested in Nigerian gas, that was looking to partner with NNPC to get about 400 million scoop of gas a day. And they were trying to invest their own money. They were going to give NNPC a carried interest, just pay them and everything for royalty and invest their own money. And so we had this conference in Geneva, and they were talking about how impossible it has been. How impossible it has been for them to overcome the regulatory hurdle that they're facing in Nigeria, and they had to leave, and eventually they got some Nigerian power brokers who demanded an arm and a leg, and then, eventually the project became unsustainable because they had to bribe and do so many stuff, so we have this huge regulatory hurdle. Funding constraint. Another challenge is the lack of funding for energy transition, for gas projects in Nigeria. So we have that funding constraint. Nobody wants, because of the lack of transparency, lack of political will, and unbelievable regulatory hurdle. Then you need more infrastructure to build more infrastructure. So thankfully, lately, this government has been investing a lot, or at least that's setting the ground, this current government, for massive investment in gas infrastructure that will attract more investment into the sector. Another major thing, of course, is security challenges that we have in Nigeria. A lot of the places where you can produce this gas, they're in very, very difficult terrain in Nigeria. So those are the kind of the preambles. If I have more time, I would like to go through the research paper, so I don't know what my timing is looking like, but it was important to me to talk about, to just kind of give people an understanding. So, Mr. Moderator, if you don't mind, please, can you kindly advise how much time do I have, please?
Well, you have about 15 minutes more. You can go ahead.
Okay. So this is the preamble, and I want people to. I'm going to try to go through this as fast as possible so that you can see the direction of this project. Nigeria is one of the major oil and gas producers in the world. In 2017, Nigeria ranked 9th in the world in terms of confirmed gas reserve with 187 trillion cubic feet. Obviously now we're at 200 trillion cubic feet with the potential to get to 600 trillion cubic feet. According to a statistical study by World Meter, Nigeria also possesses proven reserve that are 306 times the amount needed for annual use. So now, the Nigerian Upstream Regulatory Commission, previously known as DPR, has disclosed that Nigeria's solar gas reserve increased by 202 trillion. So I've talked about this, so I'm going to skip over this. So this is the introduction part. That the Nigerian transition is ongoing process. Is the ongoing process of replacing fossil fuel with low carbon energy sources. More generally, an energy transition is a significant structural change in an energy system regarding supply and consumption. The adoption of energy transition strategies and policies are designed to move the global energy sector away from fossil fuel towards zero carbon energy by 2060, as determined by the Paris Agreement. There's universal acceptance of a need to transition in order to reduce energy-related CO2 emission and limit climate change. However, there needs to be recognition that while aggressive energy transition programs are being pursued in developed countries and by the international oil companies, many developing countries, and especially those with hydrocarbon-dependent economies such as Nigeria, require a more gradual and flexible approach to energy transition. Nigeria is pursuing energy transition to support economic growth and is gradually investing in renewable energies, particularly solar, to reduce carbon emission while continuing to use hydrocarbon resources, particularly natural gas, which serves as the country's energy transition fuel. Absolutely. So in addition to natural gas now being classified by EU as a clean and renewable energy, then for us in Nigeria is a transition fuel. Is our energy transition fuel, because we have nothing now, and from the nothing that we have, which is mostly crude and generators and all the stuff that we have in powering our economy, we're transitioning to utilization of natural gas, and we need to build infrastructure to do that. So that infrastructure gap is our big problem, because what we have more than anything else, people try to categorize Nigeria as oil, we have gold and diamond. Nigeria is a gas country. Nigeria has more gas than anything else. Nigeria has more gas than any other thing, at least 200 times than any other mineral resources that we can have, including oil. So our transition of choice, is natural gas. That is what we have. So to get like background, which might be important to some people, Nigerian oil and gas sector, a brief background. Oil was discovered in Nigeria in 1956 at Oloibiri in the Niger Delta. In the Delta, after half a century of exploration, the discovery was made by Shell BP. At the time, the sole concessionaire. Nigeria joined the ranks of oil producers in 1958 when its first field came on stream, producing 5,100 barrels. After 1960, exploration rights in offshore and offshore areas adjoining the Niger Delta were extended to other foreign companies. In 1965, the EA field was discovered by Shell in shallow water southeast of Warri. In 1970, the end of the Biafra War coincided with the rise in the world oil price, and Nigeria was able to reap instant riches from its oil production. Nigeria joined OPEC in 1971 and established the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation and Company, NNPC. In 1977, a state-owned and controlled company, which is a major player in both upstream and downstream. Okay, so I'm going to skip down, so although figures drop, so right now, I mean, it's really ridiculous. The thing that we are supposedly supposed to be good at in Nigeria, which we spend a lot of time and a lot of energy, is oil production. The last time that I checked, our production has dipped to 1.3 million barrels, which is a significant increment from 900,000 barrels that it was 6 months ago. Easily with a serious government, and I've been in the oil industry for, I mean, I like to say that at least all of the offshore oil fields that has been produced in West Africa in the last 15 years, I've been a part of every last one of them. So I've seen and I've been involved in producing oil in Angola, Equatorial Guinea, Senegal, Gabon, everywhere. I know that Nigeria can easily be producing 4 million barrels of oil per day with a serious government as we speak now. So we have a lot of fields that, I mean, there's just no serious will. And when we want to produce the oil, when we want to produce a field that will generate 100 to 200,000 barrels a day, we put all the bells and whistle, and we spend $16 billion. We spent $16 billion to produce a Gina, the last field that was produced in 2014. That's the last real non-marginal field that was produced in Nigeria in 2014, So $16 billion, I built and designed the buoy between the FPSO and the offloading terminal. And Total paid $300 million for it. But today, the same buoy we're building for 70, 80 million. But in 2014, they were happy to pay $300 million for it. The same field, a similar field, like a Gina, with the same production and fluid characteristics, operating, with the same operating pressure, operating temperature, fluid characteristics, it costs them half of that. So when you look at Nigeria, is it a systems problem? Is it a massive corruption problem? Is it an industrial engineering involvement, optimization, and process improvement problem? I keep saying, somehow in all of this, i.e., we need to come in and really show people how to manage, their business. So with clear, now gas infrastructure, with clear insight into the natural gas infrastructure developing in Nigeria, it is technically feasible to harness natural gas for social and economic development, like most developing countries of the world. Christensen and Harlan, 2001, noted that it is common knowledge that there should be a deliberate policy on gas development to eliminate routine gas flaring, which is synonymous with oil and gas industry in Nigeria, in order to find outlets for some of the gas in domestic and regional network. Therefore, natural gas use depends on domestic, regional, and global network infrastructure for natural gas harvesting, transmission, distribution. The capture and use of natural gas represent the last real opportunity to plan and implement environmental preservation and sustainable development in the Niger Delta region. Undoubtedly, domestic, regional, and global gas development projects support the use and export of gas, as well as sustainable, efficient use of non-renewable sources. The growth of the domestic gas market and the creation of regional and worldwide gas networks drove the world towards a low carbon future and considerably reduced environmental pollution at local, regional, and international level due to a variety of environmental deterioration. Studies conducted by ONWUK 2009 highlighted significant gas projects as the cornerstone of environmental sustainability in Nigeria, including liquefied natural gas, LNG, the West African Gas Pipeline, WAGP, also natural gas, liquid, LNG, Escravos Gas Project, EGP, the gas to liquid, GTL. Additionally, gas supplies for power generation, industrial use, the cement, fertilizer, steel, aluminum industry, as well as small-scale enterprises, petrochemical facilities, and liquefied petroleum gas comprise domestic gas utilization, while LNG and the West African gas pipeline comprise domestic gas utilization. Make up the export market, sorry. Infrastructure for harvesting, transmission, and distribution of natural gas through national, regional, and national networks is essential for environmental management for the local population socioeconomic benefit. I have the chart that has, let me see, I'm sharing the screen. Yeah, this has, yes. So of course, this is from 2017, like I was saying before. What is confirmed now, is 208 trillion cubic feet of gas is what is concerned. Our potential is 600 million cubic feet of gas, overtaking 4 countries and making us the 5th largest in the world, but our confirmed gas reserve now has gone up by 20 trillion cubic feet over the last 5 years alone. So we've talked about some of these gas projects, and if we go to the so some of these gas projects, of course, I've talked about it, the West African gas pipelines. To be fair, there's been some investment, in especially with the West African gas pipeline, crisscrossing some of the oil facilities in the Niger Delta and going across several West African countries where we're supplying them gas. And they're making better use of the gas because it only gets to Lagos and part of Ogun State in Nigeria and stops there. And then, of course, it goes all the way to Ghana and it has 2 outlets in Nigeria and has 3 outlets in Ghana. I don't know how that makes sense. It has outlets in Benin, it has everywhere else, So we're taking this gas and we're without powering our own life, we're sending it all over the place across West Africa. It's a noble cause, but we have to realize that we're a country of 200 million people. We have massive unemployment for the youths, which I keep reiterating. And the gas can easily generate fertilizer, power, pharmaceutical, a host of industrialization that we can put into use in our own country. So let's talk about finally, we're rounding up now. So I'm going to talk about the gas infrastructure gap. Okay, so now let's talk about the International Sustainable Development Foundation's remark, which are listed below, provide an overview of Nigeria's current infrastructure situation. The infrastructure value of Nigeria currently accounts for roughly 35% of GDP, which is little when compared to 70% for larger economy. This has an impact on the economic sector related to rail, road, power. Infrastructure in Nigeria is outdated and insufficient. The country's city etc. infrastructure contains the basic services and facilities required for its economy to function, such as building, roads, electricity supply. Infrastructure also includes basic facilities and systems that support the sustainable functionalities of households and businesses. Without a modern infrastructure system, a modern economy will not run smoothly. As a result, a country's infrastructure impacts its economic growth rate, degree of development, and human development index. Without focusing on performance, we will use the federal government of Nigeria's anticipated capital expenditure estimated as a proxy for infrastructure investment in Nigeria. In 2022, the federal government of Nigeria is forecasted to invest 4.8 trillion or 39.96 billion in infrastructure, which is 29.84% of the total anticipated expenditure of 16.391 trillion. The cumulative budget for the 4 years from 2019 to 2022 indicates total expenditure of 50.211 trillion and capital expenditure of 14.1 trillion, or an average of 28.1% of the budgeted expenditure. The estimated total expenditure calculated using the average annual dollar exchange rate is 141.52 billion, with a 4-year average of 35.38 billion. Nigeria requires an investment of 2.3 trillion over the next 30 years, or an average yearly investment of 150 billion, according to the Vice President of Nigeria himself. On the other hand, Augusto and company estimate a greater amount of 3 trillion over the next 30 years. This is significant and nearly unbridgeable disparity between a 4-year average of 35.4 billion and a 30-year average of 150 billion. In other words, over the next 30 years, Nigeria will need to invest 15 trillion in infrastructure annually. At the current pace, an infrastructure gap of $3.4 trillion will have been created in 2051. Well, the next topic, obviously, is to talk about the impact of gas flaring, which in the initial thing that we have talked about it. Yes, gas flaring is a problem in Nigeria. You know, is that the country, to give an NUPRC credit, they are trying to address now. They've identified and mapped all of the 214 gas flare points, and they are going to tender out of the 214 or 213 gas flare points in the whole of the country. About 49 have been won by contractors, and there are various. I've worked on some of those technical tenders myself, and there are various things that are being planned to do with them. So it leaves us with another. And when that is handled, you know, that will take over. I think the 49 flare sites that has been successfully bidded and has been contracted out for processing of those flared gas account for around 380 million scoop of gas. You know, so it's significant. You know, so we're left with about. So those are the big flare points that people are interested in. So almost half of the flaring problem will go. You know, I mean, hopefully we find investors to be interested in the remaining 400 and something million scope that we're still going to be flaring. So yes, we have talked about the challenges, why this is important, why this is passionate. You know, like I said, I chose the hard part because the easier thing for me will be to talk about subsea production system, where I am one of 13 global subject matter experts. So I've chosen to delve into the gas terrain because it's a big problem for Nigeria. You know, it can solve a lot of our unemployment problem by industrializing the country. We live in darkness in that country. We can solve our power problem. You know, actually just got back from Nigeria last night, and you know, the hotel that I stayed at, the 4-point Sheraton in VI, for 2 weeks. You know, I mean, it's just unbelievable. The light is gone like every time. So you just wonder why we have to put ourselves in that situation. We have big infrastructure gap. You know, and we're sitting on massive oil. We're utilizing very, very little of it. We're utilizing very little because we have a massive infrastructure gap that allows us to utilize it. And, you know, so the focus is to now bridge those gaps It's not rocket science, to develop those infrastructure to create employment, to generate electricity, and to industrialize our country. Thank you very much. That is it. Thank you.
Yes, you are well done, Dr. Agunbiade, for your presentation. I believe we have all enjoyed it and learned one or two things from there. I want to thank you for your effort and the time you have invested in putting down this lecture. So the title of your lecture is Energy Transition and the Role of Gas Infrastructure. Briefly, I know that the issue of gas, you have mentioned that we have a lot of gas deposits, which has not been harnessed into diverse area of the economy that could have assisted us in energy, improvement of our energy, could have also helped us in building the gap in our infrastructural deficiency. Thank you. I want to know that all of us who are listening, you have one comment or the other. At the appropriate time, we'll ask you to do that. And I've seen quite a lot of people on this program. I've seen a lot of our people, elderly people. I can see our immediate vice chancellor, Professor Layeka, a geologist, to the expert, he will be Treasury Petroleum. I also Professor Ehiola in that department too, Professor Fawole, and so many other people that are listening, that have listened to you. I want to call on the chairman to make a comment and then listen to another good message. Dr. Kurubido, sir, your comment, sir.
Well, thank you, Dr. Agunbiade, for the lecture, the talk. We've known for long that our gas has just been flared mainly because there hadn't been the facilities to harness. But there's been a move in harnessing. I know that there was a point where efforts were made to try and re-inject into used wells. And as you pointed out, there have been moves to channel them out, particularly that there are lines that are going to the south and also supplying other nations that we provide the gas needs. What I gathered from your talk really is that for us in Africa, where we have such supply of hydrocarbon, natural gases, we should try to utilize and build infrastructure to utilize those within the nation for domestic growth, while not totally ignoring the importance of green gas, green energy sources. We can start to utilize our gas more effectively and then think about those moves that are going on in other parts of the country. Yes, that's wonderful. But one thing I noted from your talk is that you identified that a country had tried to come in and help with utilizing the gas, and they faced a barrage of resistance, which probably was due to the lack of the political will. How do you think that we can get over that and encourage people to build up that awareness of the need for more infrastructure and attract more people coming in to try and get into that industry to build it up for us? That's just to start. There are many other people who have raised their hands with questions, but I'll throw that out to start off. Did you get my question? How is clear?
Yes. It feels good to be answering your question, Dr. Kubrido, because I've always been the other way around for so many. So yeah, I think that for me, it always boils down to regulations, you know what I mean? So and sincerity of purpose. So what we lack in Nigeria is really the political will, which should be driven by a process. So if we have very tidy regulations around or policies, good, concise gas policy that everybody follows, then I don't see what the problem is. So, this is one of the most straightforward thing. Nigeria is a temperate country, so we're not cold to the point where we have to put gas in every house because we're all freezing. So we have more gas than most of the countries where people need to wake up every day and use gas. And to the point where we're number 9 in the world and can easily be number 5 in the world if we even try. So, and then of course we don't have electricity, which natural gas can solve that problem immediately. We don't have industrialization. We have high unemployment rate, 41% at the last check. I mean, and we have gas, which according to the Minister of Petroleum, if I'm to quote him, is worth 803 trillion US dollars. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. So it boils down to policies. And we all see this whenever we want to do anything related to the Nigerian oil industry. I hate to say this, you know what I mean? So there's some fat cat, you know, there, and everything revolves around them. And so this thing should be guided by policies rather than just personal interests. And if we have strong policies in place, you know, so we have people want to come in, they want to spend their money, they want to, you know, pay royalty to NNPC. I mean, this company that I was talking about, they were only needing 400 million cubic feet of gas, you know, and they were willing to invest their money, to invest in infrastructure, and to pay royalty to NNPC over a 20-year period. And then, you know, I mean, that's it, and they couldn't do it. Right. So we would rather flare those gas, you know, or people say, well, in order for me to give you this chance, I need X, Y, Z, you know. So policies, you know, so we need somebody to really come in there and shake us up. Thanks.
Wonderful, thank you. There is somebody else who wants to. Ola Peter, please. Your hand is up to ask a question.
Good evening, sir. It's so nice to hear this. I do some minor work in, not minor, most of my life has been in the energy industry, but I'm more on my own now. So I just want to comment or ask about a model that I have seen work. It's not coming out so powerfully that the world has to reckon with it, and that's the Indian industrial model. So some 10 years ago, we were getting some products from India, mostly industrial products, and they were just like, they were good, but they were subpar. They were functional, but they were not making noise like the Chinese versions or anything near the German products. So, but what India did was to allow small businesses to even start off, and technically, and those businesses kept growing. And now, in some industries, you actually have Indian products that are at par with the world. So my thinking is this. So because of the humongous nature of NNPC and all these complicated things that they do and the overregulation, one thing has worked, but people have not noticed. Modular energy projects, modular refineries are virtually succeeding. In fact, there are companies that are building refining. I'm sure there is a company that is building diesel refining equipment in Nigeria. So how can we, and I'm an entrepreneur, I fabricate, I build stuff. So what is the route, or is there a route where smaller companies can build modular units that are not that 40 million metric scoff and all that, you know, smaller things that smaller people can do that will put a foot in the industry. From the Indian model, after some time, aggregation will start to happen. Some companies will buy some, and you know they'll be able to do bigger things, and things will happen. So, what is the possibility of adopting that model? Secondly, where are the will I call it insertion point, or where are the opportunities that smaller companies can do other things? Like for instance, take a cooler. A cooler, for instance, is very basic. And nobody is building the cooler. You buy your the motors, you buy your fans from Germany, you buy this, everything is coming from other places, but you are the manufacturer. So if you take an Emerson cooler, it's not really nothing serious is made by Emerson there. It's just coming from, I'm just using Emerson. Emerson is not correct, but let's just say Emerson has a cooling unit. All of it is assembled, but a single company takes responsibility and it is done. But nobody's doing that. So where are the opportunities that smaller companies can modularize and deploy things that other people can afford before we start waiting for this $100 billion project and all that? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. So, you know, when you're talking about modularizing, you're now going downstream, you know, so it's a little bit different from anything in, but and then of course, you know, when you're talking about investment, where as an entrepreneur, you can come in, investment is a relative term. So if you're not talking $100 million or $1 billion, are you at least talking $20 million? What numbers are you talking? Just to give me an idea. Okay, well, let me go on. So if you look at 2 years ago or up to a year ago, for entrepreneurs like yourself, the DPR, NUPRC, as it used to be called then, they had a bid round for marginal fields and some fields. Some of those fields were gas fields essentially. So now, you can bid for a gas field. One of the fields that I've been working on quite recently is called IPEAA field. So, and if you don't build for gas field, let's say another successful entrepreneur builds for gas field, you can come in and help him process the field, you know, so you build your process plant. So now actually there are penalties for flaring gas in Nigeria, which now becomes a problem for operators. So as a business, as a person, so instead of building modular refinery that caters to already produce, that caters to processing crude in the gas space, at least I'm imagining that that's the question that you're asking. What are the opportunities in the gas space? So you can partner with a lot of gas processing companies. So many of them are here in Louisiana. They can help you bring a small 20 million scope processing capacity per day, 50 million scope processing capacity per day, whatever it is that you want. That if you're looking for something in that range, it's going to cost you anywhere from $10 to $15 million. You can bring down here. So IPEAA, a lot of small independents, instead of flaring their gas and getting penalized, they are now looking to turn this gas and process it and condense it and use it into all kind of power generation and a whole lot of stuff. So in that space, there is gap, and the penalty is real, is pitching, and a lot of people are suffering it and they don't want to pay that money. So they look at it and say, well, I'm paying $4 million every year for flaring gas, you know, and then I can turn this gas, make a $20 million investment, and start processing this gas and start getting some sort of return on my investment, which cancels out at the minimum the penalties that they're paying. So there's a lot of value in the gas chain as it currently is, but you know what I mean? But this is a drop in the ocean. So yeah, and we have so many people. There's the brass fertilizer company. They're taking gas from a field that was abandoned by Chevron OML 84 and 86. And they're using that, just some abandoned field by Chevron. And that is what is powering brass fertilizer that you're hearing about. So many things. My friend that is doing that, Ben Okoye, is spending $600 or $700 million to do that. But then, of course, you're going to make tons of money back. So there's so many things that you can do. You know, you can take those gas. You can actually bid for gas like IPEAA field and then do whatever you want to do with your own gas. You can get gas from Chevron, Shell, ExxonMobil, you know, and discuss with them some of these the abandoned field or you know, even producing fields and take the gas and turn it into a petrochemical company, power generation, fertilizer company like brass fertilizer. Thank you.
Wonderful. We have 3 people who want to ask questions. Moderator, do we have enough time for them? Sheye Eku. Would you like to take their questions and answer them in block?
Yeah.
Yes, let them quickly answer. We have one other person want to give us a Google message.
Oh, okay.
I want please Dr. Ibrahim, the chairman of Nigeria Gas Expansion Program. Please, if you are on board, you are with us, can you make your Google message, sir? Dr. Ibrahim, chair Nigeria Gas Expansion Program.
Yeah, distinguished professors, starting from Professor Falade, professors emeritus, professors present this evening, and my very good professor himself, Professor Dule. I consider this invitation as a big honor to join this family. And having been one of the people that have benefited in the recent past, from the brilliance and knowledge of Professor Dule, I will crave your indulgence if I can be admitted as an associate alumnus of the great University of Ibadan. I thank you very much for inviting me to make a goodwill speech or a brief statement. Just for a starter, my name is Mohammed Ibrahim, and I'm the chairman of the National Gas Expansion Program. It's a program of the federal government of Nigeria, which was started in the year 2020, essentially to see how we can expand the use of gas in Nigeria. It is actually based on the premise that we need to use natural gas as a catalyst for our economic renaissance. For a starter, I'm an engineer also by profession. I'm a graduate of Sorbonne in France. I had my postgraduate in Cambridge, and I've done quite a number of other courses, and I've made some few research in the field of energy, specifically hydrocarbon and power. Just briefly to let you know what the National Gas Expansion Program is all about. It became evident at the onset of the drive for cleaner energy under the Sustainable Development Program that Nigeria has to therefore leverage on its vast resource of natural gas to use it as the transition fuel, especially as there's a global consensus that among the members of the hydrocarbon family, natural gas methane is about the cleanest. So what we did when we came on board in 2020 was to carry out an interrogation of what are the challenges that the natural gas is concerned. And among the 3 Nigeria are 1, policy inconsistency, regulatory weakness, and of course, export-oriented molecules of natural gas. So what did we do immediately? Since I've just barely only 3 minutes, the first thing we did was to look at the policy, and then we retweaked it in a manner that we're going to stop the export-oriented policy of the country, and then ensure that the nation uses its vast resource of natural gas for its development. So the first thing we did as under the National Gas Expansion Program is to use natural gas as a catalyst for Nigeria's economic rebirth. The second thing we did was to change the policy in its entirety and ensure that policy inconsistency is addressed in a manner that we now decided to domicile the National Gas Expansion Program in the presidency. And thirdly, we took entirely the regulatory framework of the DPR, now the upstream authority, and also the upstream commission and the midstream and downstream regulatory authority. We reviewed all the regulations completely to make them investment friendly. So we now came out with a structure for the National Gas Expansion Program to ensure that every single molecule of natural gas that is produced in the country, even in an environment of lack of infrastructure, as the lecturer said, we can still move these molecules virtually using cryogenic tanks for LNG, using CNG trucks, and then using, of course, conventional LPG trucks. So we looked at the entire gas ecosystem, and we said, okay, fine. The greatest challenge we have in the country today are three. One, energy. Energy for transportation, because subsidy is a major issue. Secondly, we need to generate enough electricity in the country. And number three, we need to use some of the derivatives of natural gas after processing, that is the natural gas liquids, as feedstock for gas-based industries. So that under the gas-based industry project, we can now have modular systems that can produce all the polymers we need, so that we can also now produce all the synthetics that we need in the country. Secondly, we decided to encourage the setting up of mini LNG plants all over the country. As I speak, we have 7 mini LNG of 4,000 MMBTU that are currently being built in the country locally by Nigerian engineers. And thirdly, we now introduce auto LPG, auto CNG, and auto LNG scheme into the country to replace Nigeria's dependence on refined petroleum products. As we're all aware, you can move using cryogenic tanks on LNG. You can move a truck for 2,000 kilometers without refueling, just LNG. So that is already in the country. Quite a number. Just give you an example. Dangote today has converted 10,000 of his trucks currently running on CNG. Coca-Cola, West African Portland Cement, Pepsi, have all brought in LNG-fueled trucks in the country. And as I speak also, we have 26 CNG locations in the country that are moving CNG molecules by trucks virtually. The 70 megawatts Bua cement plant in Sokoto has been running on LNG for the last 24 months. There's a 50 megawatts of power in Maiduguri that was commissioned by the president just about 3 months ago, running entirely with LNG that we moved from Rumuji in River State up to Maiduguri. We have 11 LNG retail outlets all over the country today that enables you to be able to move LNG and use LNG as automotive fuel for trailers and tankers all over the country. In the subsidy regime that we are trying to use also natural gas to address, we have virtually 10,000 locations in this country today that can dispense auto gas, auto LPG, which means that the country actually has the capacity, even in the absence of the appropriate infrastructure, to move natural gas and its derivatives all over the country. I hope I'm able to give you a snippet of what we have been able to do. Let me conclude by saying, from our own study and over the last 3 years, finance has not been the problem in the country. Finance has not been the problem for investment in the gas sector in Nigeria, for the simple reason that without finance, we've been able to build 26 CNG compression stations in the country. We've been able to move molecules all over the country without a single finance coming from the NNPC, from the CBN, from the Nigerian government. We have had to use Nigerian investors because we have brought in modular systems, like I said, cryogenic tanks. We have brought in cascades into the country. In fact, we are working with local manufacturers like tanneries who are large scale pipes in such a manner that we convert those pipes to now operate as cascades. I don't have much time, and I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I do look forward to sometimes in the future when I can give you distinguished gentlemen a bit more detail of what we have done in the Nigerian gas expansion program. Let me finally say this. 90% of the molecules that are being produced in the country, especially the natural gas liquids, are being exported. 90% of the natural gas that's being produced by the international oil companies, the IOCs, are being sent toward the LNG Train 7. Our focus is no longer to encourage LNG for export, but to access every single natural gas we can get at the wellhead, add value to it in country, and use it to develop our country. Once again, thank you very much, and I wish you further constructive deliberations as we go ahead. Thank you very much, sirs.
Thank you very much, sir, for that, those short but very concise. And you're also giving a ray of hope that everything is not all that bad. Thank you very much, sir. I think because of our time,
Thank you very much.
The three people who have raised up their hands, I think they should just say their questions straight away. Let them say it in order that we take note so that the lecturer will respond together. We are running against time. So Olusheye Kun, Dolapo Agumbiade, and Tolule Sami, in that order. You are still that quickly ask your question. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Olusheye Kun. So I'm just going to quickly, thanks to the presenter for a good presentation. For me, I think we should consider using the word energy mix as against the energy transition, and because we are going to continue to produce oil, and we're producing oil and gas, and revenue from oil will be required to develop all those big gas projects that you mentioned, and especially the reserve of 280 CF. If you don't develop them, it's of no use to us, and we have to develop them. You dwell so much on the infrastructural gap, which is key. You need to evacuate those gas to the end users. But one key component that possibly is a challenge to the gas development, I didn't hear you mention about, would be the appropriate pricing. Having willing buyer and willing seller, which seems to be some of the active for gas project development in Nigeria today. Those are the questions or things that I want to talk about, but I'll yield the floor for other people to ask their questions.
Thank you. Dolapo Agumbiade, please, can you make your comments or question?
Good evening, everyone. I appreciate the resource person tonight. He has really given us a good exposition about the oil and gas sector. I just want him to, what will he advise the government of Nigeria to do? In a short while, maybe by June, there's a possibility of they removing the subsidy on the oil sector. Now, of course, when the subsidy is removed, the cost of petrol and petrol-related materials will be up in the sky. And of course, our refineries are not working. What will he advise the government to do in order to make this, it will not be it won't be a nightmare for an average Nigerian? That's my question to Dr. Agumbiade. Thank you.
Thank you. Tolu Ilesami, please, can you come up?
Thank you very
comments.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I want to say a big thank you to the resource person for the lecture. My question is around the, I think in just last month, March 2023, we had in the news that the president signed a law that removed power supply, I think generation, transmission, and distribution from the exclusive list. So, of course, that probably allows states and other subnationals, perhaps collaboration at regional level, to be able to, delve into this, to be able to explore perhaps where they have natural advantage. So my question is, I know you talked a lot on gas. So my question is, from the experience you has had, over the years working in this industry, what are the likely things that we're going to see with this, if you like, liberational law that the government has signed into law? So what do we expect, from the states? Because that's probably, I can imagine that states will begin to desire, to be able to explore at state level, what they can do with gas and other energy sources and all that. So from the experience he has gathered over the decades and years, just give us an idea of what we should look forward to, because I can imagine how much of opportunity will be able to, be much more available to much more people. So are we looking for an environment where states are going to get involved? I mean, just generally what you are seeing perhaps in other countries and what Nigerians can look forward to as far as power supply is concerned. Yeah, I use my microphone. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank
well,
you.
Yes, please. I know that we're trying to. wrap up. So just to answer Mr. Lureku's question, yeah, so will I consider energy mix? You know, I actually thought about that because, you know, I mean, then when you start getting into the question of mix as an industrial engineer, you are now talking about output variables, which might be a little bit more confusing, you know, and I think that the issue for all, you know, about this thing is that is natural gas. What is the categorization of natural gas? You know, is it a clean energy? You know, in which case, yeah, you know, so I think, yeah, you know, I will still kind of keep it like that, but it's just the spirit and the intent of the presentation has always been to say, for us in Nigeria, natural gas is a transition gas from where we're coming from. You know, I mean, and we need to build the infrastructure. But I hear you in terms of whether we want to talk about, when you're talking about gas and its propensity for having so many output variables, and when you are then now talking about a mix, then you might be, the whole intent or spirit of the presentation might have to change. And then now we have to start talking about different things that actually comes out of this power generation to determine the best quantity of each to produce, you know, to maximize the gas utilization in itself, you know, but we just have this gas sitting down there to start with. We're not utilizing it. And it's a transition gas for us. So yeah, then I kind of lost you. You asked some other question, but I think that's the main one that I heard. The second person that asked the question, Reverend Dolakwa, he said, what do I think about subsidy? You know, I'm a big advocate of subsidy removal, which is to be using the amount of money, 50% of our GDP, to pay subsidy. It just absolutely makes no sense to me. And people have always come to say, okay, well, you know, refinery, we don't even have money to do anything. That's just the reality of Nigeria. When you live in a place like, I mean, people should take a look at Houston, Texas budget and compare it to Nigeria. You know what I mean? And that's where you begin to see that we're just really funny, not to talk of Texas. You know, Texas as a state, it has 39 times. The budget of Texas is 39 times the size of the budget of Nigeria. The budget of Houston city is bigger than the budget of Nigeria. And that little money that we make, we use all of it. So where's the money to sincerely refine, I mean, to turn around the refineries, you know? So I think that we should stop all this. I mean, but of course, it's not entirely up to me, but, you know, I think that the subsidy should immediately go, because Nigeria is the only place in the world where, I mean, if people pay more for gas, they just utilize it better. So instead of, you don't see Nigeria ever walking. They don't do anything. They don't go on bike. They don't, you know, if you go to Denmark and Norway, you see executives going on bikes because gas is not cheap. So, you know, they exercise, they walk to walk, they go on bicycle, they do stuff. But in Nigeria, you can't even ask an average Nigerian to go from his front door outside. Gas is cheap. It's just going to get in the thing and drive. That is where the problem is. You know, so subsidizing gas, and who are we subsidizing the gas for? The majority of the people that drive this car, they're the rich people. So you're subsidizing it, and then the poor, the things that they need, which is good quality education, they are not getting it. Good quality health, they're not getting it. Schools are on strike forever. You know, I spent 2 years, because it's even very funny when I look at my graduation year. I spent 2 years on strike when I was in school. So entering for 5-year course in 1990, I should be out in 95, but I was out in 97, just being home, doing nothing, because we're paying subsidy. So I lost 2 years of my life to subsidy. It's a stretch, but I can also see it like that. People are dying, so, and then of course, when you look at the Nigerian budget, where you're going to get the money to do the refineries in a way that you can actually really do them. So the problem that subsidy is creating for Nigeria and corruption along with subsidy is just what is going to ruin the country if you don't immediately do something about it. And then, of course, the last question, so that's my take on it. I'm sure other people have different takes on it, but I've pondered deeply about this and, I've come to that conclusion on the subsidy matter. So on the question of liberalization of power to state, I believe that is a good idea, because what it just means is it just brings a lot more creativity into the industry, and then, of course, it also allows a lot of people that are investing in field development and field acquisition in a lot of this gas infrastructure project to have willing buyers for IPOs, for states, independent power generation, So people are, obviously, the pressure is on for the politicians because there's more accountability at state and local government level. So when people see what River State is doing, then Bayelsa wants to do the same thing. If everybody in Osun State has the electricity, or your state people are asking, why not us? So the cascading effects of that is going to drive demand for investment in power generation, because there's going to be demand for especially natural gas to power this liberalization of power generation of the state. I haven't read too much into that, but I think it's a good policy. Obviously, the federal government is not doing a lot lately. So any avenue to devolve power to the state is a welcome development by me. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir, for your responses. I believe the discourse continues. The discussion cannot end here. We keep on, the discussion has been generated, and every need to contribute will already be there. So we thank you for your lecture. We thank you for your contribution. We thank you for delivering a good lecture. Again, I want to acknowledge many of our people who are on board. We thank the Professor Ibadude, who is still here. We thank Professor Emeritus Professor Falade. I also see the National President of Industrial Engineering and Alumni Association, Engineer Femi Akitunde. I can see you. Thank you for staying tuned. I can see our own father, Professor Lule. I've mentioned Professor Olayinka the other time. He's still on board. I can also see Professor Inyola in the Department of Geology. Thank you, sir. Many other people are there that I can't just mention everybody. Dr. Olajiretu, all the way from UK, I can see you. Lai Oniboje, I think you are about the same time with Dr. Agunbiade too. Many of our alumni, thank you for honoring this invitation, and many other people that are there. Dr. Agunbiade, maybe you make your final remarks before I call on the person who will do the vote of thanks. Can you make your final remarks, Dr. Agunbiade?
Yes. So once again, I want to thank everyone. I think now Professor Lule has joined. He
has been around.
Okay, he has been around. I think initially
Yes.
when we started, we were, so we want to thank. I want to thank everyone for this opportunity to make this presentation. I know you said that usually during this presentation, people, they make their contribution, and I was looking for that list that was distributed to see what contribution one can make to to the department. Obviously somebody like me and Aki Yunusa is also somebody that has joined here. We're very grateful for the opportunity to have passed through the department at the time that we did. We had a lot of professors that were very dedicated. They were very, very focused and very serious. And, we gained from that, especially Professor Lule and Professor Charles Owaba. They dedicated their life to raising young men, who has now contributed significantly during this time. So that is the reason why when I was told to make a presentation here, I immediately jumped at it, despite my incredibly busy schedule, so I had to move my flight, like I was saying when we did the pre-introduction, to arrive Houston yesterday so that I can take this presentation this morning. So I did a lot of things. And I just want I want us as a department to organize better, our alumni to be more functional. There's a lot of us, I believe, that we can contribute at a significantly higher level. But then of course the opportunity has to be presented in a way that it carries everybody along, and we are communicated to very well. Just the whole totality of the alumni, we want to be able to contribute at the significant level if given the chance. So I will be getting back to you because, like I said, I didn't see the list of the needs of the department that you talked about. And I sent you a message about 2 hours ago, and then I sent, I'm also looking at it, I sent Dr. Kolawole as well. So I think it showed that he read it to share with me the list of department needs. So usually from what I've watched before, this is the time where I'm supposed to say I'm giving this and giving that, but if I'm committed really to doing that once the list is shared with me. So I thank Professor Aki Ibadode. I would really have loved to hear his thought on everything because, from the beginning, he was a little bit wondering about the way the topic is going to be tied down. Obviously, it's a privilege and an honor to be in the same platform as Professor Emeritus Falade, who the kind of legacy and the body of work that he has done. I mean, 30 years ago when we joined the department, Professor Falade was a huge name 30 years ago, So, just 30, I'm 33 years ago to be precise, when we joined the department, it was a huge name, So 33 years later is a privilege to be in the same platform as he is. And so I thank everyone, I want us to continue to go as a department and to continue to pull ourselves together, for the greater good of Nigeria and humanity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Actually, Professor Ibadode has started and saying that the lecture is okay, he's glad about it, and believe that the lecture will generate more discussion, that discussion continues from here. So he has made his comments. Thank you, sir. Just before I call the following, do the vote of thanks. By God's grace, our next lecture will hold in second Friday in the month of May. And to deliver that lecture will be one of our alumni again, a 1992-93 session graduate, Engineer Mike Atisele. Okay. Mike Atisele. He also has wide experience in the oil and gas. He has worked in Shell for several years before he's in Aramco. He's studying presently. So he will be talking on modeling and mentorship and their place in capacity building. Modeling and mentorship and their place in capacity building. That's what we'll be talking about, by God's grace, second Friday in the month of May. To give the vote of thanks tonight is one of our elders in the department. Is one of the founding lecturer in the departments, Professor Oji Akanbi. I just want to say briefly about him. He was in the department for some years when we were in undergraduate, when he was to teach us. He left for the industry. We miss him. But he came back on what I would call second missionary journey in the mid-90s to come back to the department. And he rose to become a professor. Those students who are in the department in the early 2000s, late 90s, I've been calling him Baba, 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 Baba since that time, and very friendly with students. And significantly, the lecture he's participating today will be his penultimate participation as a full-time lecturer in the department. Very soon, Professor Akanbi will be retiring from the department. By May, he will still be a lecturer, but by June, we will be calling him a retired but not tired professor. So Professor Oji Akanbi will be concluding the second missionary journey in the department. By June 4 this year, he will be retiring. So he will be giving us a vote of thanks tonight. I want to welcome you, sir, our daddy, elder in the department, Professor Oji Akanbi. Let's hear you, sir. Professor Akanbi, sir. Hello, sir. Professor Akanbi. Oh, perhaps where he is not too okay. I don't know. We are not hearing you, sir. Well, if the head of the department is around, Dr. Bolarewa, maybe do the vote of thanks on behalf of Baba. I guess maybe network may be not too okay where he is. HOD. Well, once again, maybe I want to do it on their behalf then. I want to thank everybody who has participated in tonight's discussion. Right from all the elders that we have invited, Professor Aki Badude, thank you, sir, for giving out your time. I want to thank Emeritus Professor Falade, where he has been described by this guest speaker, that be a giant, even when some of us were toddler in the departments. We thank you, sir, for giving up your time this time. We want to thank all our alumni, right from the president to everyone who has created this platform upon which we can operate. We thank Professor Lule, our father in the department. Thank you, sir, for honoring this. We also thank the chairman of the Nigerian Gas Expansion Program for giving out his time to be here and for his words of encouragement and the information he also gave to us, showing us that everything's not all that bad, that things are actually going on. I want to thank Dr. Okuribido who has come, who has shared this program. Dr. Okuribido has already been a friend of the department right from his days as a lecturer to when he went away. Since he has been away, he has already been in the department, giving us journals. Whenever he comes around for his sabbatical in 3 months, he contributes to our postgraduate program. He does a lot. We want to thank you, sir, for giving out your time again today. We thank everyone. We thank the head of the department, Dr. Butola Bolarewa, for giving the platform as the host. We thank all the professors I have mentioned earlier, Professor Lainka, our immediate past vice chancellor, and other professors who are honored, who have participated in this program. We cherish your presence, and we know that we continue. We will not stop here. We want to enlarge the program. The program going to get better. We want to say thank you to every one of us. Thank you for coming. I wish you a wonderful night rest, or as the day continues wherever you are. Thank you. And we may also want to remind you, as I just said, Professor Akobi will be retiring precisely June 4. That will be his 78th birthday. And he has to exit the system by virtue of that age, retirement age. And we used to honor our people, those who have served us, who have put in their best. So the alumni will be calling on you very soon to contribute. And presently, a book of reading is going to be written, and the cup of papers is already out. We want to contribute we want you to make contribution to that publication, work system. Industrial work system design, and expanding through teaching, research, and innovation. That's the title of the book of reading that I want to do in honor of Professor O.G. Akonbi. And every area of industrial engineering, engineering generally, business, whatever industrial covers. You know, industrial engineering is in business, engineering, and every papers are welcome from every area of endeavors. So we will be welcoming that. Please, let's contribute. And whatever we are called upon to do to give Professor Akonbi a befitting retirement, I'm sure we would like to do. So thank you once again for participating. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for being there. If you are not there, this program cannot hold. So I want to say thank you. Dr. Akonbi, once again, thank you for your well-delivered paper and your time that you have invested in giving this lecture. To everyone, once again, I want to say thank you and see you by God's grace next month. Thank you. God bless you.